When the stars burn out and the strong winds come, I will lift my eyes to the rising sun. He is the Prince of Peace. He steadies my soul. I am his hands and feet. The whole world will know I'm a disciple of Christ. I will never leave him. He is the truth and the life. He's the strength in my weakness. I will shine till the whole world sees. He's the light that will set us free.
For years, this valley had only 2 families and 1 sister that were members of the church, and we traveled to the Carson City branch for morning Sunday school and back in the evening for sacrament. The stake was the Reno, Nevada stake, and stake conference was held in the old gym on the University of Nevada campus. Later, a stake center was built on Golconda Street in Reno. When the Lord wanted the church to be organized in the Carson Valley, my dad, Max Jones, who was less active at the time, was called to be the branch president. Salt Lake gave him 1 year to become eligible to take my mom, Laura Jones, to the temple, and then begin the process of organizing the branch and the building of the church. Few of the members had ever been to primary or mutual for young men and young women, or Relief Society, or even priesthood, and had no idea what to do or where to begin, including my father. The valley was very anti-Mormon at the time. My father was told, "We ran you Mormons out once, and we can do it again." Many of us lost friends because of the church. It was a very humbling time, and everyone had to rely on the stake leaders and the Lord. It was definitely the refiner's fire for our little struggling branch. Then the Forest Service mysteriously transferred 2 LDS families here. The government opened up land for homesteads, which is now Johnson Lane, and mysteriously 4 active family members moved in, with more to follow.
And then as the branch continued to grow, through this whole period we met in the CVIC hall, up on top for the meetings on Sundays, and then down below on the floor for Sunday school. During that period, of course, we were cleaning up the CVIC hall. We had to come early because there was always quite a bit of debris left downstairs from the Saturday night parties. And so the brethren would come in and sweep it down, and the sisters would clean up the messes. And it didn't take long for that to provide a lot of motivation to want to build our own place to worship. And Brother Bob Rowe and myself drove around California and northern Nevada looking at buildings, and we settled on the Lovelock building that had recently been built. We met with the bishop there, and he was kind enough to loan us his plans. So we brought those plans back, and I redrew them and flipped them over. Max Jones made some different room arrangements on them, and we submitted those to the church. But the building department didn't want to go with those plans, and so we wound up having a meeting in Salt Lake with the building department where the 4 of us and our stake president went up, and in that meeting, I think we saw the hand of the Lord that had been previously purchased. The 2.8 acres that were there at the end of Scotchy Mac's pasture were sold to Max Jones simply because Scotchy Mac knew that he was a descendant of the Mac family that was related to Joseph Smith's family. He would never come into the building once we built it, but he was willing to sell us the property. At the same time, the sisters, with their bake sales and crafts fairs and everything else that went on in the community, changed the influence, changed the feelings of people about who the Latter-day Saints were and what they could do and what they contributed to the community. At the same time, members became involved in county politics, the county government. The head of the building department was an LDS person. Members of the school board became LDS people. County commissioners became LDS people. And little by little, those feelings changed to such a point that, and in this day and age, I feel that the church is almost totally accepted in the valley. When the contract was issued for building the church, the contract went to a contractor that knew Max Jones, the branch president, and knew him as the justice of the peace, and knew many of the brethren in the branch who were electrical contractors and plumbing contractors, and had confidence enough in the brethren and the members of the church that at Max Jones's urging, he allowed us to contract about 2/3 of the work.
Strangers and mainly less active and part member families together. Some of the men were called to be building, electrical, plumbing, and masonry subcontractors, all working together to build this church. The women brought lunches and sometimes dinner to the men and later sanded and stained all the wood in the original chapel, including the benches, which is now the primary room, and all the wood in the hallways and storage closets.
So in the months that followed, much of the work was done by members. The sisters of the ward did all of the sanding and priming and finishing of the woodwork. Brother Steve Schaefer hung all of the doors in the building. The brethren blew all of the acoustic. The landscaping was all done by the brothers and sisters of the ward.
A lot of us put a lot of work and tears into the construction of that building and everything. And I was working for Copeland Lumber at the time, and I'd known about this paint, Pratt and Lambert. I remember it distinctly. Pratt and Lambert oil base paint. And so I'd talk to the ward about using that paint inside that building. And I can remember this day of getting several other members, and we went in there and we painted the hallways and the different areas with that Pratt and Lambert oil-based paint. And a lot of work went into doing other maintenance on that building.
In order to build a building of that size, which was going to be just about the biggest church in the valley, we had to do a lot of fundraising. And in order to pay for all of that, as a branch, we catered dinners every Wednesday night for the Rotary Club. The sisters would work primary during the day and cook while they were doing primary, and then serve dinner to the Rotary Club in the evening. And then they would leave, taking the children home, and the brethren would come in to clean up the tables and put the tables and chairs away and clean the building.
We had to pay for a percentage of the building. So we catered dinners for the Rotary Club, which was about 50 or more men, every Monday night in the CVIC hall. The men set up tables and chairs. The older sisters cooked a complete home-cooked roast beef, mashed potato, and gravy dinner with all the trimmings, including homemade rolls and homemade pie and cake for dessert. The younger women served the food, cleared the tables. My dad would always say to us, clear everything off the tables but their teeth. The men then came back and washed all the dishes, silverware, glasses, including the pots and pans, and put away the tables and chairs. The word spread fast about this wonderful home-cooked meals, and pretty soon we were catering for special events for the various clubs in the community. We catered to, once a year, was the Glider organization for their awards night. In April, gliders from all over the world would gather in Carson Valley for the week. The awards night was Saturday night, and we would set up, cook for, serve, and clean up for 300 people. As you can imagine, that was quite an undertaking. As the building of the church progressed, Molly Peterson, who is Clay Peterson's mom, and Janae Schaefer gathered us women into the cultural hall and taught us how to make creamed fondant center dipped chocolates. The fondant was made from scratch, and the fondant, which was very stiff, had to be hand beaten until smooth and creamy and was too stiff for regular beaters. So Steve Schaefer rigged up his electric drill to hold a beater so we could beat the fondant. What a blessing. We sold the candy at Christmas time for several years. Thanks to these women, I continue to make hand-dipped chocolates for Christmas.
Hello, my name is Joanne Maple Bruns. I was asked to share a few memories about the Spruce Street building. We need to go back a bit because it took some time and lots of work to get here. In 1964, when I was 17 years old, my family moved to the Valley. We were building our home in Johnson Lane. Within days of moving here, we had a visitor, Max Jones. He said we would be starting a branch of the church and wanted us to attend on Sunday. We met upstairs at the CVIC hall. There were originally 45 of us. Within a short time, Max had the idea to build a building and that we would need to do lots of hard work. We started hosting Monday night Rotary dinners. In the kitchen, there would always be Laura Jones, Max's wife, my mother, Lena Maple, and my grandmother, Ada Witherspoon, and many other women and men. They were so impressed with our 5-star cooking that we ended up catering events for many years to come.
Okay, I had a friend, Penny, and she was in my grade in high school, and she was always talking about the dime-a-dip dinners that they were having at the Mormon church. And I was really interested in that. That sounded really fun. And so her parents invited me to come, and I would spend the night at their house because I lived in Genoa. And so it was just really fun to me to know that they were doing this dime-a-dip so that they could build a church building. And
When the church was finished, the first big task we had was to hold our first big open house for the community so that everybody could come and see what was going to take place in that church. Many of the members around town were very interested in that because the church sponsored the community's Boy Scout troop, and over half of the troop were non-members of the church. The following day, we dedicated the building. In those days, the church was small enough where each new bishop was asked to come back to Salt Lake to be set apart by a general authority. And when a new building was dedicated, a general authority was sent out to dedicate the building. And in our case, Brother Vaughn J. Featherstone, who was a counselor in the bishopric at the presiding bishopric at the time. When I look back at the years that the church has stood over there, I think about the concept of impact in the community. And I can't help but look back to those early years when the church was new and there was such a great deal of anti-Mormon feelings in the valley. Then once the church started into its operation and people started coming and going to different events and the scout troop grew, the influence of the church became more acceptable to the people around. The troop always had over half of its members that were non-members.
The first sacrament meeting when this building was first opened, so that was super cool. I can remember hauling sand to, I think, make the mortar to build the rock wall out in front of the building, which now is the primary room. That used to be the chapel. I have a ton of wonderful memories of this building. When I was a kid, I'm not going to incriminate myself, but I used to get in trouble a lot. I think because people didn't appreciate my sense of humor and understand my energy level.
Hello, I'm glad to get to share a few of my fond memories of the Spruce Street building. My name is Tammy Bruns Stout, and my parents are Dennis and Joanne Bruns. As they were caretakers of the Spruce Street building, my sister and I would always be given the opportunity to go and help them when we were little, like 3 and 4 years old. We would be given a bucket and asked to pick up all the trash in the chapel and throughout the building. We would also ride our bikes at the church, living only 3 houses from the church. While my dad was mowing the lawn, so we would ride our bikes around the church. We would walk over with him when he would change the sprinklers around for watering. He was the automatic sprinkler clock back then. I remember going with my mom and my aunt to get food for the many dinners that they would serve for the Rotary Club and Lions Club and 2020 and whatever else clubs they had back then, and that so they could earn money for the building and subsequent building additions. I played the piano for primary back in the original primary room where the baptismal font is, and accompanied the young women. Brother Hunt taught me how to play the organ, and it was that I would accompany the congregation for sacrament meeting in the original chapel, which is now the primary room, and in the current chapel. The very first hymn that he taught me to play was "Come Follow Me." And the invitation to follow our Savior in those 3 words has been very instrumental in my life and an example of the person I should be as a young girl, as a wife, as a mother, and as a Mimi. This is more than a building to me. Living 3 doors down from the Spruce Street building, it is my heritage. It is my childhood memories learning about Jesus Christ and helping me in my growth and my conversion to the gospel of Jesus Christ. These memories will be forever etched in my heart.
Going into the new chapel, when it all began, we as a family, we would sit together naturally with our daughter and our son. It all began with that in the 4th row. It was always like we had the 4th row. And then as our grandchildren came from Scott and Anna and our daughter, we had 9 grandchildren from Stephanie and then 5 from Scott. Well, our row filled. We went from one end to the other end and filled that up. And now we've got great grandchildren also. But what has the building really done for us? It's done everything for us. We wouldn't be where we are today if it hadn't been for coming back into the church for me, becoming active, and then for our family and all of the baptisms and the confirmations and passing the sacrament, becoming a deacon and an elder and high priest, and it just goes on and on. And
I was baptized in this building in 1979 in the same room I attended seminary with good old Bob Ellison. He loved me. Weekday primary we had back then on Wednesdays. All the kids would get off the school bus. We would walk over, watch a movie. My mom was the primary president. We'd watch the movie and have primary on Wednesdays. There's so many good people that influenced me as a young girl from a part member family in this building. Some just that really stand out and loved me for who I was are Ann and Bob Alexander, the Stocktons, the Schaefers. Max and Laura Jones were like second grandparents to me. Eileen Mankey, Mary Jane Lake, those women, just true Christian women that just loved everyone. Bob and Jan Moore, George and Judy Kill, Dan and Carla Patterson, Starla and Jerry Smith, just true cream of the crop people who were so good to all of the members of the ward.
The Carson Valley First Ward, years back when it was first done, it had the benches inside the primary room were stained a very dark black stain, and I was looking at them because there was some word about replacing them, taking them out of there and putting benches or chairs in. And I was very opposed to that because being in the lumber business, I knew that those benches were beautiful oak benches. And so I suggested that we take them and restain them and finish them for use for the children.
Come to fruition, and soon we were building the building with many members donating their time and energy along the way. My testimony grew as I saw what it took for saints to come together as modern day pioneers and to build this building for us to gather in. By that December, we had 60 members, and the Carson Valley branch became independent with Max Jones president and my father, Eugene Maple, by his side, serving with him. In March of 1971, we had grown to 165 members and became a ward in the Reno stake. Just as the building was being finished, Max Jones visited my home and asked to speak with my husband, Dennis. He asked him to be the caretaker of the building. My husband said, "Well, I'm not even a member." And his answer was, "I trust you." That was an honor, and we cared for the building for 12 years. Dennis did the inside and outside maintenance. Back then, 90% of the building was vinyl floors inside, so it took a lot of hard work to keep it up. My daughters, Jennifer Brunstilwith and Tammy Brunstout, had their jobs too, facing the hymnals in the chapel, emptying the garbages. Both my daughters were baptized in this building and saw the transformation when we added on the chapel and the other wing of classrooms. Living 3 doors down, I have walked to this church for 52 years. Today, this beautiful building stands as a monument to the hard work and dedication those first saints made to pave the way for many generations. It's not just another church, it's a legacy to this valley, one I will deeply miss.
Remember that bench over there is the sacrament table right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I used to sit to bless the sacrament.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sacrament closet. Now, you didn't know, but I used to take the sacrament cups and build pyramids on the floor out of the sacrament cups.
You naughty boy.
And tell what that they all fell down and everybody heard it. Yeah, remember? Yeah, this was all open ceiling with open beams.
But that's precious. That's precious.
Yeah. Yep.
When we first started going to the church there, our little girl was just a tiny baby, and she and Scott, our son, grew up in the church there at the Spruce building. And if it had not been for the missionaries that came to our house that day, I just can't see how our family would be members. I can't see how Scott would be a member of the church. I can't see how our daughter would have been.
Down their driveway. These were just a few of the many ways we earn money for this building. All these thousands of hours of serving others and the hard work spent by everyone in our tiny ward in order to be able to have a church building turned us into an amazing ward family with strong testimonies and an appreciation for what the Lord helped us to accomplish. Just look at us now, from a small church here in Carson Valley to what it is today. Through honest hard work and perseverance, we slowly won the respect and acceptance of this community. Today, many of our church members have been elected or appointed to county and town positions, and many are school teachers or serving as board members. All of this was made possible by a loving Father in heaven.
But yeah, this definitely gonna miss the building, just like a lot of people. But what I've thought, as I've thought about this building and what it represents, I know that there are a lot of members who helped build it from the ground up, literally. And I really appreciate the work that they did so that I could have my own memories here. For me, as I thought about it, as a lot of, I've talked to many members and how they've voiced their concerns, frustrations. I know that this building was meant for the people who were here, so they could experience the Spirit in ways that they had.
For 51 years, the Spruce Building has been so much more than just a building to the George and Judy Keel family. It's the building that the lives of Darren, Brittany, Krista, and Emily Keel have revolved around till they went away to college. The Spruce Building is where our family has gone to church for over a half a century. But it's not just the Keels. This building has stood as a gathering place, a sanctuary, and a home to hundreds of families here in the Carson Valley, standing quietly at the foot of Job's Peak while welcoming generations through its doors.
There is peace in Christ. He gives us hope.
This building has been filled with the sounds of joy, reverence, laughter, and song. Within these walls, babies were blessed, children baptized, young couples married, and loved ones laid to rest. In these classrooms and hallways, children learned of Jesus. Youth grew in faith and service through early morning seminary, finding friendship along their way. Relief Society sisters taught and lifted one another, and friendships were woven that will last forever. From the kitchen came countless dinners, potlucks, dime-a-dip meals, ward dinners, empty nester meals, funeral meals, wedding reception spreads, etiquette dinners for the youth, Christmas dinners with children dressed as angels and shepherds, singing of the birth of our Savior, always followed by the delight of a candy cane visit from Santa Claus. Cakes galore came out of this kitchen. Birthdays, weddings, and Mother Day cakes, cookies for dads on Father's Day, scout dinners, scout cake auctions, and more dinner rolls that could ever be counted in a lifetime. Then that old kitchen became the family history center, with microfiche machines humming away, so generation after generation all over the world could be found and given the blessings of eternity through the gospel of Jesus Christ. The old gym had an amazing old theater stage with beautiful velvet curtains where plays, dance festivals, and speech contests played out. A scout fundraiser found the scouts shelling and bagging hundreds of pounds of pecans on that old gym floor. The new gym came with carpet and its crazy wand doors and continued to be a place of activity and growth. Volleyball and basketball games were a constant. Cub Scouts raced Pinewood Derby cars here. Cub packs and Boy Scout troops held pack and troop meetings and all the activities that came with those. Exercise and dance classes were held. Christmas pageants, programs and activities of every type from primary, the youth, Relief Society, even the parking lot was full of activities. Families gathered there for trunk or treats. Youth held outside dances in that old parking lot. Volleyball games, all sorts of games. Fires cooked foil dinners for the youth and for scouts. Scouts held special, moving ceremonies to dispose of old, worn-out American flags. And the entire ward would gather around the outdoor flagpole to raise and salute the flag on special occasions and Scout Sundays. The chapel rang with beautiful music, organ and piano duets, and testimonies. Testimonies newly born, deeply strengthened, and tenderly shared. Reflecting belief in our Savior Jesus Christ, his love, and the hope and promise that the gospel brings. During hundreds of sacrament meetings, missionaries were lovingly sent forth to every corner of the world and joyfully welcomed home again. This old building, though simple, rests on holy ground, consecrated by the lives, prayers, and faith of all who entered its doors and worshiped here. Its walls hold memories of sacred moments and ordinary days that together created a legacy of faith, family, and service. Though its doors now close, the spirit of what was built here by the hands of its members will live on in the hearts of all who called it their chapel.
I'm tending to my garden, a few things I need to change. There ain't a petal that's too far gone. The grass is greener, the roses started blooming. Pulled the weeds out of my soul, I feel brand new. Tonight, I call off the inner fight. Allow the saving light to shine over my dying flowers and breathe in life. Born again and cleansed with living water. I'm picking up my pieces, restoring my frame, becoming whole through loving grace. I'm changing lenses from black and white to opened eyes, and now the world I saw before is full of color.